Good morning, everyone, and sorry for the delay. I am managing what is a new time zone, and I am also trying to manage the internet speed in my hotel. So that's a thing. I am so happy to be here. Someone says, can I put the schedule so you can get a screenshot of that? Yes, I'll do that. I still have that loaded from yesterday. So I want to tell you, most important thing is this is one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I believe there's no substitute, and you know this from being somewhere in person. And yet, when I want to watch a good football game, my favorite team, of course, is the Michigan Wolverines. Go Blue! But of course, I always love the Lions because they never fail to kind of disappoint us. But this year, my gosh, we're going to go to the flippin' Super Bowl. Okay, that aside, I don't love being in a stadium. I would prefer to watch my football games or my Olympics. I'm just that kind of person where I've got a good camera shot, right? That's how I feel. But when it comes to things like rock concerts and political conventions, friends, hi, Jeff. Good morning. Political conventions, friends, you got to be there in person. There's nothing like it. I don't know if I have the stamina to do this again, but it feels like a lifetime experience to be participating in what could be the election of our first female president of the United States, as well as one of the most generous and humble acts that someone with power in the world has ever displayed, and that is Joe Biden deciding to stand down. And I'm going to talk about that, of course, too. So I want to tell you about today's show. Today's show, I'm going to give you a rundown of the convention, some breaking legal news involving George Santos, as well as what's going on in the Donald Trump sentencing. And of course, there will be Ask Me Anything in Crazy Town. That said, it's going to be a short show like we used to do, probably about 20 ish minutes, 25 minutes, because I want to focus on getting all of my clips, all of my videos that I'm going to tell you about uploaded so that today at 10:30 Eastern. Yes, I swear to you, we will be on Eastern time again. Today, excuse me. I feel like it's 10:30 Eastern. That's happening. That today we will absolutely have those clips, and so I'm gonna tease those out for you to tell you what I want to show you later today, so you get a feel of the kind of coverage that went down. Okay, so here's the deal, guys. Um, One thing is I'm realizing I am in need of. Oh my gosh, I'm so thirsty, and I left my coffee across the room. I will handle it. So if you can handle my voice, guys, I can keep going. Okay, so here's the deal. I do have some things I can visually show you. I've got some merch, but I think the most important thing I can do is respect the question that I was asked, which is first, can I share the schedule? Let's do this. Okay, here is the schedule. It is not, written in stone, but it's what we know so far, and I'm going to pull it up full screen for you. We had, of course, as you know, last night, there was Hillary Clinton and Jill and Joe Biden spoke. Tonight, what we are expecting for evening is, I am trying to see this. We are going to have the VP candidate himself, Tim Walz, as well as Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, and JB Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, given that we are here in Chicago, which still is part of Illinois. He will be speaking. So that's the evening events. Later on Wednesday, we are going to see. I'm lying to you. It's not Tim Walz. It's today's VP. Um, Gosh, I saw his face. Doug Emhoff will be speaking tonight. Sorry, guys. So, and on Wednesday, we will have Tim Walz, the future VP. And we are going to have Mr. Clinton, husband of Secretary Clinton. And I believe he was a former president as well. Not trying to disrespect him, but let's face it, Hillary was the star last night, and I'm going to talk about that. We'll have Speaker Emeritus Pelosi, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. And then on Thursday, the big event will be Kamala Harris herself. And I will tell you, I'm going to get there super early to make sure I get an excellent seat for that. Okay, I'm going to pull this off the screen. People can do a screenshot of that if they want. Now, I know you folks should know a couple things again before I launch into my experience. One, as I said, today at 10:30, we're going to do what happened last night, and it's going to feature me, Mary Trump, and Danielle Moody. You'll be happy to know that Danielle, who had tremendous traffic problems, not traffic problems, her flight was canceled when she was trying to fly in on Sunday and several times yesterday from New York City, but she landed, my friends, and she is going to join us. Then later today, we are doing Nerd Avengers, and we have like a full lineup of nerds. Half of us are here in Chicago, half are holding the fort down at their homes. And we have a special guest, Julie Zebrick, who has been a Nerd Avenger before. And she is a delegate, a Maryland delegate, and she can tell us what's going on the floor. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to lead with what was the most important moment for me at the convention. And I promise you guys, I'll show this video clip from my own phone later when we have what happened last night. Now, it was Hillary Clinton. It was, for me, I don't know, one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. And I got to tell you, I've always been a strong Democrat. I wanted Hillary to win. I'm not one of these people who is obsessed with Hillary. I'm not obsessed with any politician. And the way I feel about Kamala Harris is so much more enthusiastic than I felt about Hillary. That is not to diss Hillary. It was my feeling then that she was amazing, that she deserved it. But I was noticing back in 2016 that there was an enthusiasm gap brought on by years of right wing tarnishing her reputation. But nevertheless, I heard what I heard, and I knew from friends in the union movement that there was trouble. Back in summer of 2016, she just didn't have the support, and I was very worried, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, that said, of course I wanted her to win, and I was utterly devastated when she didn't. And my heart is still broken. If you remember that Kate McKinnon clip from Saturday Night Live where she sang the Leonard Cohen song. Leonard Cohen, the singer, had just passed away, and there's that gorgeous song, Hallelujah. And Kate McClinton was, oh God, I'm saying her name wrong. Kate McKinnon. Kate McKinnon, the comedian from Saturday Night Live, and Kate McKinnon was wearing her white suit because she was always doing the Hillary impersonations. And of course, that particular gig was going to end, but also so was Hillary's future as a president. And that was, she'd reached her glass ceiling, and so had we as women. So there was a scene that Kate McKinnon, who can sing and play the piano, and you really should watch this clip at some point, but she was at a white grand piano, and she played the Leonard Cohen song and sang it. And it was heartbreaking. And yes, utterly, utterly heartbreaking. And I felt like, there's this line, I did my best. And it ripped my heart out because I knew what was ahead. And she had lost. We didn't know how close the election was. I don't think then by that Saturday, because it was Tuesday when the election was on Saturday. But it broke my heart. And so seeing Hillary, and then, they were like, oh, Hillary's gone wandering in the wilderness. The coverage of her was really negative. Anyway, Hillary's fabulous. And last night when she took the stage, it was the highlight, because yes, I'm going to say this, that is right. She won the popular vote. And Susan, we missed an opportunity. And this is why she was so strong last night. Everything she told us was right about Donald. We should have elected her. And she had the grace and poise and this perspicuity and this generosity to be up there, understanding that she had cleared the way. And now we are going to break down that glass ceiling or break down that door, and Kamala Harris is going to come through. And I'm telling you this from memory, but there was a moment when Hillary Clinton was speaking that I broke down crying. And I don't like to do that in public. And I did not bring my tissues, my friend. I'll tell you what it was, friends. And maybe you saw this if you were live streaming here with us, because we had the feed coming in. Maybe you saw it, but there wasn't a dry eye in this area I was sitting. And it was when Hillary Clinton said, if my mother were here today, and if Kamala Harris's mother were here today, and they saw how far we had come, because these moms aren't with us anymore, right? And they saw how far we had come, they would say, Keep going. And for me, it was so touching. I'm very close to my mother, and I can't imagine. I don't think any of us, if you are close to a parent, I don't think any of us could imagine what it would be like to reach these heights. Shamala believed in her daughter. And to imagine that a mother doesn't get to see this moment for her daughter. And when Hillary took that turn in the conversation and said, keep going, we knew we were going to keep going. So that was incredibly touching. I think the other highlight was when Ashley Biden introduced her father and thanked him for everything he'd done. And people out in the audience were shouting, "We love you, Joe," or "We love Joe," or "I love Joe." Yeah, Vivian, I know. I know. You miss your mom too. And at any rate, it was incredibly touching to be there when Joe was willing to pass the torch. And again, as I said earlier, this was one of the most significant moments, I think, in political history ever. And I know we've had presidents decide not to run for reelection. I think those were very different circumstances. I mean, Lyndon Johnson decided not to run for a variety of reasons. He did, remember, take office after the assassination of JFK in 63. And then he ran again, never ran again. Then he actually ran as president and won. So he had like a term and, a quarter. And he was just loathed because of Vietnam. And he, at some point, decided it didn't make sense to continue. And of course, we know where that led, which was to the election of Richard Nixon. At any rate, this is a very different situation. Joe Biden, I think, finally realized and knew it was time. And he set the pathway. He cleared the way for Harris to step up. And he did two different things. When he came into office, he promised to be a bridge president. And I think kind of maybe forgot that, but he did. He got us back to normalcy from the utter hatred and division that Donald Trump brought. But we're not done with that. And by stepping down now, when he doesn't have the energy and he can't inspire this kind of mobilization, he can't bring the same kind of message of the future, of, moving forward. That is what we need now. And so he, in this other end, is more like, he is not Lyndon Johnson. He is like George Washington, who did this to save the nation. Country, not just over party. In this case, it's country over ego. It's country over, and it's country. I wouldn't say that it's country over legacy, because he's made this his legacy. And I am so happy that I witnessed that. Now, let me tell you other few things I saw that I'm going to bring to you in clips. Let me tell you, if you had ever been to one of these situations before, one of these conventions, to explain to you how it's all laid out. If you've ever been to a rock concert in a medium-sized arena, I think this holds like 25,000 people, right? So it's just a large arena. You know how you walk in the front doors and, they're just different escalators to get up to the different levels ringing around the arena. You know this kind of thing if you've been there. And then, of course, there are food stations outside. Like if you want to get into the arena, right before you go into these little side entrance ramps or gates, outside there are places where there's merch being sold and there's food. And in this case, there's like, if you forgot your cord charge, your phone charger or what have you, things like that. And also, though, around the edges, there were sometimes these little special rooms being set up. So there was a whole area that I saw for certain kinds of media, for like radio media and podcasting. And so I was on Dean Abadellah's show. He was home in New York. But Sirius XM has a studio set up there. So if you do listen to shows like Stephanie Miller or John Fugelsang, they're there. They're right near where the NPR folks were. And that was super fun. And what I can share with you is when I was on the radio with Dean, they weren't filming me. So I held up my iPhone so I could kind of also capture the video from that. So I'm going to give you clips. And what was great, I was driving Dean a little bit crazy. I said, Dean, this is a great place to be, but it's a little bit like, look, squirrel, because walking right in front of me was the amazing young woman, Olivia Juliana. You might remember her, who was being body shamed by, I don't know if it was Ted Cruz or you'll have to tell me in the chat who Olivia Juliana was being body shamed by. And she just punched back and ended up raising millions of dollars to support abortion rights. And so I was so glad to see her. And yeah, Sexy Lips. I saw John Fusselking, and I said to him, how do you get your voice to be so sonorous, like or sonorous like that? And he said, lots of practice. He told me, like, when he was young, he would talk in this high, squeaky voice. And right nearby there was John Nichols, who's a friend of mine from Wisconsin. He writes for The Nation. You may know him, good friend of Ellie Mistal's. And he was there he was there because, he was sitting there with the NPR folks. I walked by a station that is based in the US, but the folks there were entirely speaking in Mandarin. And it was amazing. I actually chatted a little bit in Chinese, although my Chinese is terrible. Luckily, they did not ask me to go on air. So that was one area. There was another couple areas on the ground floor and the third floor set aside for social media influencers. And although my pass, and I'll show this to you, my pass was not a social media pass. My pass yesterday was amazingly, thanks to Mary, for honored guest. Right, I'm never giving that back. Never. Anyway, my honored guest pass allowed me to get to certain levels. There's like another level, VIP level, which I'll tell you about in a moment. But by the way, every single pass you have, unless you have an actual press pass, like for CNN or New York Times or what have you, you need to get a new pass every day. So we have to go get our credentials every day. The safety and the security here is very, very tight, and that includes for social media people. Although they're carrying around tags that say it's Monday through Thursday, it is not. If you're a social media influencer, every day you've got to stand in line at the location where these are handed out. And for security reasons, I'm not going to tell you those details. Okay, so that's that layout. Now, separately, I think you can see the shot behind me as my green screen is a photo I took from inside the arena. It's not from, a stock photo. It's not something I took from a news story. This is a photo I took at one point from where I was sitting. And if you see behind me, kind of above the layers of the stadium, you kind of see this strip over this shoulder right here, where it looks like yellow, but that's just light. That's where the major news stations are stationed, like CNN and Fox News and all these things. I should call Fox News a entertainment station. But anyway, all these places are ringing around there, kind of like, again, in a sports stadium, you would have some of the newscasting and broadcasting. So that's what it was. Also, in the very center of down the very bottom, like the official stage, just like a rock concert, although there weren't a lot of like flashy lights down there, you had the small lectern where the speaker would be speaking. But above, in the very center of the stadium, was a giant screen, which was like a cube. And on all the sides, you could see and broadcast, of course, the sound of who was speaking. So it was visually very accessible. Okay, so I kind of got you the layout of that and told you a little bit about those experiences. Now, what I want to say too, though, is the day was very booked. There were amazing speeches from a variety of people you love, labor leaders, including the head of the UAW, Sean Fain, who was really clear about why Harris was on our side, that she fights for the working people. She is the most pro-union. Joe Biden has been the most pro-union administration that we have ever seen, and that Donald Trump, of course, is fighting just for himself and his personal interests. That's who he has in mind, and that was kind of the point. That the theme that Kamala, this is for the people. That is Kamala Harris's campaign theme. Also, the words forward, and this is because, as Hillary Clinton mentioned, which I'm sure you have heard, when Kamala Harris would stand up in court as a prosecutor, she would say, "My name is Kamala Harris, and I'm here for the people." Okay, guys. So as mentioned, if you're just joining now, I don't have clips. The clips will be here when I join Mary and Danielle Moody at 10:30 Eastern when we do About Last Night. And I've got a ton of clips. So I gave you the layout. And so what I would like to tell you is, when I was walking around, when I'm outside in those areas where there's the food and the merch, there's people, walking to where they need to get to. And so on the floor, where I happened to be on the first floor, where sort of the media area was, I'm talking about the radio and social media and podcast area. And I ran into Claire McCaskill and I interviewed her. She's a former senator from Missouri. I also saw my former Congressman, Jim McGovern, from Western Massachusetts, but I let him go where he was going, but I might catch up with him later. I also saw, you might know social media people. I saw Joe from Jers, and she's really fabulous. I also was, I'll get you into more details, but I also got other footage interviewing folks, so that will be great. Now, we've talked a little bit about the event, and again, we'll get more into our impressions and into our substance. One thing that did happen on my way there, I think there were some commotion with some of the protests, and again, I am fully for freedom of speech, and I am for ending the war in Gaza. And apparently, there was something involving people breaking through some kind of barricade, but it didn't affect any of the events. There are barricades all around the perimeter of many of the areas. So there was no issue inside the arena. Now, one thing that did happen in the United Center, I think it was while Joe Biden was speaking at the end of the night, that there was someone in one of the areas on the ground where this is where all the delegates are. One of the states, there were a group of people who unfurled a cloth banner, and I think it said Free Palestine. I'm not exactly sure because I was sitting in a way that I couldn't see it. And then I think security wanted them to leave, and I'm not sure what happened, but at some point I saw what it looked like someone struggling or people punching or whatever. It was minor. And I am, though, looking forward to knowing a little bit more when I can check out what happened. And I'll report back to you today at 10:30 when we meet with about last night. And of course, also, we will be here for Nerd Avengers. Okay, so I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to show you some of the swag that I got. And I will then talk about some of the other news real quickly, and then we will do Crazy Town. Okay, so what I am really excited about, and I bought like 5 of these, is these buttons. I'm getting glare. They say Kamala. They're really big, as you can see. They would really show up on a lapel. This would help Donald Trump, maybe say her name properly, or anyone else, because a lot of people have trouble. It's Kamala, like Kamala. There you go. Another one of the pins that I really love that I have is influencers for Harris. Okay, where's my fave? So I've got all these other Kamalas you can hear. And okay, so this is one of my favorites. Band. Oh, I'm getting glare. I can't show you this because it's green, but it's saying it's going to give my background. It says banned book readers for Harris. One of my favorites is aerobic instructors for Harris. Our friend Steven had that, and I'll show you a clip. I'll show you the photo of that. I also got ready for my new car in Michigan, Kamala Harris for president bumper sticker. There's more, guys. So the Tim Walz sort of hunting cap theme where he was wearing a hat that said Harris Walz. Well, someone else made up hats that say our freedoms, our futures. Look at that. It's going to glitch right here, but that is really in green. It's in that kind of apple green color that is famous in our brat world. Okay, so I have this hat. I kind of want to keep it. I really should bring it back to Michael, who's listening. But I'm not sure if Michael wears hunting caps. So, honey, let me know if I can keep the hat because I think it's kind of cute. Don't you think it's kind of cute, you guys? Even if it's glitching out here, I love it so much. I'll be wearing it today out in the world. Our freedoms, our futures. Okay, so let's talk though. Let's pivot real quick to some breaking news from yesterday. So, as you probably heard, George Santos has pleaded guilty to various felony counts, including wire fraud. And I can provide a little more details on the nature of that plea tomorrow in a legal segment where I have another roundup. But that is done, and he will serve prison time. So, that is so much for his career trying to bilk people, including the elected, including the voters. And I'm glad. I hope there's restitution for the people that he has cheated, though. It's very disturbing. Now, what also happened in the news, which I want to talk you through, I'm not concerned about. I talked it through yesterday with Dino Badala. As I mentioned, I was on his show live from the convention center, United Center. Here's the deal. What we have heard is that Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg has decided that he is not, let me put it this way. He communicated to the judge that, to Judge Juan Merchan, that if the judge decided to postpone the sentencing, he would not object to that. And remember, the sentencing for Donald Trump for the 34 felony convictions for business records falsification was scheduled for the 18th of September. And I think that will be postponed, and I don't think it's a bad thing. And I think, let me tell you, the reason why that I think it's okay is as follows. There's a strong possibility that no matter what this judge does on sentencing, that Donald Trump would do some kind of immediate appeal because, in terms of, because of the Supreme Court decision. Remember, the Supreme Court decided that that there's this new way of thinking about presidential immunity, and this was in the case involving the federal case involving the insurrection. And so the problem is that in that decision, with regard to the Judge Chutkan case, the leading up to the Donald Trump's interference in the election, including with the fake electors and so on, that federal case, the judge there was instructed to do some kind of fact finding to kind of sort through which of the actions that Donald took could be protected as official acts. So those would be set aside, and not only that, under the Supreme Court's decision, if the indictment in the case involving the election interference, if any of the any of the charges, if the indictment was, any of the counts were based on a predicate of facts that were tied to his official activity, then those would have to be set aside. Now, it's pretty easy to go through this, because in the case where in the case leading up to the insurrection, this is where Jack Smith is going to have to sort through. It's pretty easy to do it. It's going to take a while, but they haven't actually had full discovery in a trial. So there's nothing set in stone. Jack Smith can sort through things and decide if he wants to shelve some of the charges, maybe add others, and do a superseding indictment. That's a very different animal than a criminal case involving, in the state of New York, where Donald Trump was convicted on these 34 state felony counts. Because here's the deal. If I recall correctly, shortly before the trial, Donald Trump's team asked to have the indictment dismissed, made a motion on that basis, based on the immunity case hadn't been decided yet, but they were already in court with the Supreme Court hearing the immunity decision, and they tried to make this argument at the last minute, and the judge rejected it. And I have not looked at the judge's reasoning, Judge Juan Merchan, but to the extent that, one thing that would need to be looked at, or the judge would need to think about, is, did he base his rejection of the argument that Trump said he was immune based on having looked at the facts? And if he did and decided, signing checks for his business to pay Michael Cohen a reimbursement when he was pretending it was a fee for service, and that, he did that in order to cover up when he was a candidate, this affair with the porn star. If every action that was put into evidence, that if the judge thought, all of this, if all of it that the judge had anticipated beforehand, before the trial, that in his view, he believed, based on the pleadings, that he had made these determinations and made these factual conclusions, and maybe it's fine. But my friends, this is a complicated gray area. You might be confused based on what I'm saying, but the bottom line is, there is a real legal question that, even though I think the answer to it is not in Trump's favor, in Donald's favor, but there's a real legal question that Donald Trump's lawyers could raise with a higher court about to set aside the sentencing, they're still dealing with trying to get the whole case dismissed or parts of it dismissed. And quite honestly, we need to make sure, more than anything else, that this indictment, these convictions stay the focus. This is somebody of the criminal justice system. I'm someone who always thought that Merrick Garland should not play politics and should have gone after Donald Trump right away. I'm also, in the same way here, believe that we cannot let politics get in the way of this. This is a very strong jury verdict, but the law is complicated. The Supreme Court invented new law about immunity, but nevertheless, this is the court. And if you want to ignore their decision, then they're going to slap it back down. And my biggest fear would be that if the judge went forward with sentencing, that two things would happen. One, no matter what the sentencing was, Donald Trump would use it to score points. If it was he would say it was too strong and say he was a martyr. And he would also say, see, it wasn't so bad. This was a minor thing. They just slapped it on the wrist. He's going to use this for his political advantage and undermine the justice system. And no matter what the decision was, he would try to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And I believe they could do something that would mess with the election. And I want to keep the rule of law separate from politics. So I'm not uncomfortable with that. Okay. For Ask Me Anything, because I want to close the show out, I want you guys to either put here in the live chat or hop over actually to after, if you're watching this, go in the YouTube chat. I'm going to read the chat today. I want to hear the questions you want me to ask people, right? And remember, I will be back here with Mary Trump and Danielle Moody, not back here, but back at Mary Trump Media. Please go there to watch us, and later Nerd at 10:30, and then later Nerd Avengers. What I need you to do now, though, is please, the bottom corner of your screen, it says subscribe. It's free. Please click there and subscribe. I promise you that by tomorrow morning, I'm going to have all the tech issues resolved. I'm going to make sure that I upload all of my clips in an area where there is better internet speed, so that first thing tomorrow morning, when I will be in the right time zone, it will be, we'll have the show up at 8 a.m. Eastern. I want to do that for you, and I want you to absolutely be here with me. And okay, so Crazy Town, my friends. And let me just get our music. Crazy Town, my friends, is about to happen. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but Donald Trump is going to absolutely melt down in a way that we have not ever seen before. He is going to glitch out. This is cute. And when Kamala Harris takes the stage and the people watching at home and in the arena erupt, and after the after the convention, the polling comes out, he is going to go off the rails. It's something we have never, ever seen before, and I want you to brace yourself. So please, I can't wait to see you at Mary Trump Media. I think that's in about an hour, where I will have all these clips ready for Mercedes, so I can show you Hillary Clinton on stage that made us cry. I'm going to show you interviews with people wearing a member of the Democratic National Committee wearing the most cool hat, some ladies from Florida with the most wacky outfits because they're pro-choice and trying to restore abortion rights in Florida, and of course my interview with Claire McCaskill, and those cameos with Olivia Juliana and other famous influencers who are absolutely wonderful and are so filled with joy. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, see you over at Mary Trump Media in an hour. Talk soon.